Okay, so this is Bryne Stothard speaking, and I work for Frankfurt International School, and I've been honoured with being able to speak at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management at their International Stammtisch Event. And the topic that I'm going to talk about is virtual reality applications for business. And actually, I work in the business or the field of education. So I'm going to try and show what we've done in our school and more globally in education as a whole, and also try and attach that to some meaningful solutions, I guess, or ideas for people in business. Actually, the start of my talk, I want to get into this idea that where do good ideas come from, and good, I guess, organizations, good corporations, of which our school is a large company. Like, how do they allow good ideas to flourish and to grow? So I'm going to use the example of about 2 years ago, when I first started working at the school. Actually, my background was in teaching geography and TOK, but I was also a gifted and talented specialist for about 10 years at 2 different schools. And I guess I was used to creating a job for myself and kind of going beyond what I guess a normal classroom teacher would do. So I was sat home one night, having just moved to Germany, and I was listening to a podcast called Final Games. And the guy that you see on the screen, Jake Kasdal, worked for Nintendo back in the day, and Sega as well, I think. And he was talking about something called Google Earth VR. And so, having sat and listened to this podcast with a few glasses of wine as well, I emailed the head of school. And again, I'd only been at the school for a few months, so it's a little bit of a risk, perhaps, in doing this. But I emailed him. And I said, I've got an idea I would like to come and talk to you about. And Paul, who may be in the crowd at the event, was fantastic. And he, because I guess I put everything on paper, was pretty exact about what I wanted to do and what money, of course, it would cost the school. And he said, fine, just go and do it. So I booked a demo first down in a place called Conrad in Frankfurt to try the gear out, and then came back and said very specifically, these are the things that I would use it for within my own teaching. And I also said, these are the things that I see, some things that I see in the future for other areas of the school. And I said to him, if you allow me to do this, and if you buy this, we could be creating a bit of a problem here, because there'll be a lot of other people that will want to use this gear as well. And now in the school, actually, we moved into phase 2, so we bought 2 more devices. So one is permanently in the art department, and the other one is permanently in the DT department. And the third one, the original one, is the one that I'm using tonight. And actually, that I don't really get to use very much in my own classes, because I'm so busy taking it out to other parts of the school, at all ages as well, and all divisions within school. So I guess, like many of you may have tried VR before, and you probably have seen people using this Google Cardboard. And for many schools, in fact, actually, this is the way that they're the route into virtual reality, and this is what people perceive virtual reality to be. So you can see the smartphone put into these incredibly cheap Google Cardboard devices, and it gives a pretty good approximation of a virtual reality experience. You can see on the left some students in my class using it, and it's very effective. One of the things that I use this for is when we do the migration unit at IB, which is the grade 11 and 12 students. We use the United Nations, some of their videos that they've made, where they actually track the journey of a refugee from the perspective of a refugee. So you get to see the camp that they lived in Turkey. You get to see, to some extent, what they were leaving in Syria, and you also get to see the journey that they make. And it's all videoed from their perspective, and you essentially are looking at the experience through their eyes. We've gone a step further at the school. So a colleague of mine has got, one of our tech integrators, got a 360 camera. So when we did our field work up in the beautiful Taunus, I took the camera with us, and you can see the students over there. My colleague is explaining something about the pumping station. And I was doing an analysis of one of the sites that the students studied, that they took measurements for. So I did this for all of the different sites that they were at, and then when they got back, they could put their headset on, a very cheap headset, and it was essentially like they were back on the actual study itself, plus with my guide as to what they perhaps some analysis of the different sites. So we've done that in many other classes as well. So I'll show you some of the kind of evidence of us using that in the school. And again, it's very straightforward, very cheap to do that. If you want to see more ideas, because I'm not going to talk too much about education, try and get into the business bit. So if you want to see more about the education side of things and also my blog, you can go to the website there, vrintheclassroom.com. And if you're on Twitter, it's my Twitter handle. I put quite a lot of stuff on. And then also YouTube, where I have various videos that I make about things that have happened and things that we've done in the school. And also, like when I go and speak in different places, I'll put things on there as well. So different places that I've spoken. So we held a big Google for Education summit actually in our school last year, and that led to me going to this other school. This chap is from, David Hotler. So I've been around helping other schools get started up, and that was the American School of Madrid. And I've also spoken actually at Google offices last summertime, plus some other events here and there. This one actually is a podcast that there's a bit of she's a bit of a superstar in the education circle, Holly Clark. I think she's got something like 50,000 followers on Twitter. And she interviewed me for her Coffee to EDU podcast. So you can go there as well. That kind of go into a bit more depth about how I see VR in education panning out and why I think it's going to be super important. Okay, so I guess some of the lessons that we've learned from education that could be applied to business. Here we have the back of my room, and you can see there are 3 students collaborating. So one is in the headset, the other one is monitoring the screen, and also like leading the discussion, I guess, and then the third person is writing the written answers, and they're actually looking at a place called Lyme Regis in the UK. Now, one of the first questions people ask me, we've only got one headset, how can you use that in a classroom, right, when you've got 20, 30 students? So the best way to use it for me in most of the classes that we've integrated this into is to have students collaborate. And if you can project the thing that you're seeing, just as we did when we did, on the event, when we do the Richie's Plank experience, just as we did that, if you as a person collaborating, if you can see what the other person is seeing, you can also give them direction. And that's where the collaboration comes in. So I'll give you a short example, again from my classroom, and this loads. So you can see the student at the back there. There are some written answers on the board. Actually, what they're working from is a Google Doc. So again, they're collaborating on finding answers as one person explores, and they're giving him directions. But if we spin around, you can see there's a real hive of activity and different stations. So what I'd say in terms of business is, this could be an office. Why shouldn't this be replicated in an office environment? Having an area. It could be fairly open plan, where students or work, colleagues could collaborate with one another on a different way of doing a project. Okay, so you see we're then switching to a different group that are going to come and enter. So using it as a station to promote collaboration and promote discussion in the classroom is a pretty good way of doing it. A second, although the other one that I see being quite relevant for business, is having a station that's separate from the rest of the office, I guess. And so it would allow colleagues, in this case children, to come and collaborate on design projects. So the students at the top here collaborating on a Google Blocks design that they're making in DT. Down the bottom here, you can see Gravity Sketch, which I'll show you an example of later. And then across the bottom right, we had a group of students collaborating on Minecraft VR, designing. They're redesigning very famous structures and buildings from around the world as part of their Da Vinci project. So the student in the hot seat is the person who's doing the design, and then they essentially switch places. And if you were doing some design in, I guess, in physical reality, obviously if somebody messes up, if somebody does something that the other two people who are collaborating don't like, it's quite hard to fix it or to alter it. Whereas in VR, most of the collaboration you can just go back, right, and you can edit it. So they're working on top of each other, I guess, right, sequencing their work. And here's an example of this. So this is in our art department. You can see some traditional art there across the back, and then we've got an IB student who is doing some artwork and design as part of their course. And again, this is slightly different because they're working kind of on their own. Okay, so how much does it cost to get the equipment? Because I don't know, right? I don't know if you are familiar with this as somebody in industry, whether you've seen this before. Certainly in education, people, is essentially brand new. Although our school has been doing it for nearly 2 years now. So the laptop that you see that we're using today was about, at the time, it was about €1,500. That's 2 years ago. So you could get a perfectly capable laptop for €1,000. The Vive, which you've seen us using as well, originally was about 800. It's come down to about €600 now, and the price of it will come down further. There are different, kind of updated versions of the Vive. We have not really taken the leap yet because the regular Vive is perfectly adequate, but the Vive Pro is a much more kind of defined screen inside, so much higher resolution. But for our purposes, this is absolutely fine. And we've got 3 of these now. So not a huge investment, I guess, relative to the investments that schools make in textbooks and I guess in building and employing staff and so on. So €6,000, I guess, is what we've invested in getting this all together. The software, so where do we find software? So the best place to find software is using something called Steam, which is actually like a gaming platform. Some of you have got kids, probably seen your kids buying software from this. And the software that we've bought is pretty cheap, actually, for what it can do. So this is not all of the software that I've bought, but I've put some key bits of software on there. And some of it is free. You can see down the bottom, Google Earth, Soundstage, are both free. And the 2 most powerful design tools, Gravity Sketch and Masterpiece VR, are not prohibitively expensive. Again, the school is kind of, I pay for things through my own credit card and I just go and get reimbursed. So it allows me the freedom to trial and to test things. So VR in industry then. So how can we apply some of the things that we've learned or the things that we've done in our school? How can those be applied to industry? So the first idea that I'd like to kind of walk you through or talk about is how VR is actually being used for training. So you can see here an example. This is Shell, and they're using another company called Eon Reality, and they're having Eon Reality build very specific training simulations for Shell. So you can see on the right here this equipment, which may be dangerous, may be easy to break. Maybe the access to the equipment is the reason that you wouldn't be able to take your employees over there. So you can see here 2 people actually collaborating. There's also Manchester and Osaka. You can do that online using VR. And Eon Reality as well, the company that are building these experiences, they have worked with a school in the UK, and it's a training college called Telford, and Telford have invested about €500,000, pounds and euros about the same now. It's about €500,000 in building a bespoke, and they've had bespoke software built for their training purposes in mechanics and different fields. Aeronautics, I think, is one of them. So I think for industries and for businesses, this is possibly a real money saver and time saver in getting people to train together and collaboratively as well in a danger-free environment. Okay, so that takes us on to the next example, which is Labster. And Labster is something that's been around for a little while now, and it started out on the phones using essentially Google Cardboard, and then also using just regular experiences on laptops, and now is becoming room scale VR. So it allows students to work within virtual laboratories. So instead of spending millions of euro, millions of dollars on real equipment, the students can use virtual equipment. So things that could be reliably replicated, mass spectrometry, for example. Like the gear would cost a lot of money, and actually you can see here some biohazard. Some work with biohazards, so dangerous experiments as well as expensive experiments can be essentially replicated within virtual reality. And again, this could be done anywhere. So the student could do this from home. They can do it collaboratively. They can work across the world. And you look at some of the universities across the top with the testimonials. You can see it's becoming increasingly a global program, and something that students at universities are kind of becoming more used to. So that's the second example for training, I guess. So we've got two concrete things there, I think, that will show or highlight that maybe will make you think about your own industry. What things could you apply? And Neon Reality, the first company, are a company that can build things. Later we'll talk about whether you can build things in-house, because we've been doing things like that at our school. So next example for something for industry, where perhaps you'll be able to apply virtual reality is this. So professional development. I know in the field of education, schools spend thousands of euros. Probably each school, I would suggest, spends at least tens of thousands of euros sending its teachers around the world. Some of these things are requirements as well. So for the International Baccalaureate, if you're going to teach that, you have to attend a seminar somewhere in the world. So this example here is using a piece of software called Engage, and it's fairly recent, the software, but for the last year and a half, a chap called Steve Bambury, who is based in Dubai, who's also an educator, he has been hosting continued professional development in virtual reality. And some of the guests that they've had on are pretty high profile. So in the bottom right hand corner here, you can see this guy Alvin Graylin Wan, who is the CEO of HTC, who make the Vive. There have been many people from many different fields that have appeared in the CPD for VR, and to get a sense of what it actually looks like, there's obviously the video that was playing just then. But on the right hand side here, you can see this is a selfie that I took the last time that I was in one of these sessions. So it feels pretty weird when you're in there. It feels like you have arms and you have legs that you can see, and you can see like some of the places that he's hosted it have been in lecture halls. He's hosted one recently that was on the surface of Mars. So this software can also be used as a training simulator, and so we're going to have a little demo now. And the thing that we're going to do was created for Oxford University, and it was created for distance learning, and it involves resuscitating a baby in a third world environment, essentially a third world country. So again, it would cost an awful lot and would be incredibly risky, I guess, to have students go and experience this for real. So we can do it in VR. Obviously, I can't show you the demo right now, but if you go and search on YouTube, you'll be able to find a demo of that. So the second idea, so first idea, just to recap, was the training and also, I guess, collaborating for professional development. And the way that VR can facilitate that and reduce the costs for businesses that need to do that and have to do that. So the second idea is more around customers. And you've seen how using this 360 camera, the GoPro 360 camera, which retails about €600, you've seen how I've been able to produce VR videos of my classroom and also for the students to use for their internal assessment work, for their field work. But companies are doing the exact same thing. And essentially it's a combination between the 360 camera and a piece of software called Unity. And again, at our school, at high school level, me with no formal training as such, and some of the students with no formal training other than the training that I've given them, have been able to do this and to build virtual environments. But you can see here to the left the video of a company called Matterport that create virtual tours. And if I click on this button here, we'll go and have a look at one. So this is a tour that they built for a tour of a house, a luxury home. And within the tour itself, we can move around. And it's built using the 360-degree cameras. But what they've done inside this as well is they've embedded photographs and they've embedded videos as well as labels there. So I think if we click on this one, there's a video that's been embedded with an explanation as to why these two guys that run a real estate agency company, why they've invested in using this technology. Down the bottom here, you can see if I click that, I can use the Google Cardboard headset again. So I think this as an example, plus if we think more globally, I know that the NBA are using VR now as a way in which you can view games. I think the World Cup recently had some games that you could view in virtual reality. I think customers, I think just people are getting more and more used to having this as a way of experiencing things. The next example that I'll show you is something from Volkswagen, so not too far away from where we are today in Frankfurt. And there's a link to our school actually. So the chaps in the top right hand corner, Lucas is in the red t-shirt there, is one of our alumni. And when he graduated a few years ago, he didn't have any intention of going into this field. But he was always a gamer, and like me, and it was something that he kind of fell into, he told me. But now he is creating virtual experiences for Volkswagen. And what they're doing is instead of having a huge showroom, right, with a rent and a footprint and employees, they're trying to, as best they can, and fairly accurately recreate their line of cars within virtual reality. So that somebody who wants to try one of their models can do so even from home, essentially. And they can change the color of the car, they can change the interior of the car, they can experience the buttons, pressing it. You can see here there are many kind of interactive components to the cars. They can switch car on, see how it sounds. They can change the environment that the car is in as well. And I know that it's not just Volkswagen that are doing this. Later on you'll see IKEA as well. In fact, I think if you go into IKEA stores now, some IKEA stores have this set up. So if you've been to IKEA, you must have seen the areas that they have where people can design their own kitchens. Have you seen that? So now the next step is you design your own kitchen, then you get to walk around. So I guess for businesses, this is something that you would have to think about. Like, what for you would be the experience that you would create? I know I was having dinner the other night with a Korean friend, and he is working on designing plants. And I told him about an experience I had in Amsterdam at a place called VR Days, where there are companies that are essentially taking the design of a new plant, this is for a chemical processing plant, and they've recreated it in virtual reality for their customer to actually see it and view it. Okay, so the third thing in industry, again recapping. So the first thing that I see is the training and professional development. Second thing would be customer experiences, replicating something that would be ordinarily probably incredibly expensive or impossible for them to see, and making that very cheaply available to them. And the third thing is for you as people in industry is how are you going to make all of this stuff? So how are you going to create all these things that we've seen, that we've spoken about today? And I'm here to tell you that it is probably simpler than you would think. With a minimum investment, you can have people within your company doing this. So as well as collaboration, the other huge advantage that I see virtual reality bringing and having within education, but also within business, is that it will allow, or it can allow, other emerging technologies to be integrated into designing new products and solutions as well. So here you can see an example of a plant that I designed in virtual reality, and then eventually we print it out, and this is it. So this is actually the smaller one here. It was one that I made for our head of upper school that sits in her office, and this larger one here we made last week. There's another one which is in my room back in Frankfurt, which on the right hand side you can see that we 3D printed out. And so I see VR as being an incredibly powerful tool to allow people to make new things and integrate different technologies. Another example here within our school, in fact, is how the students have integrated VR design and 3D printing in the classes that they've been taking. These are students from my grade level that I'm the head of, and the 4 grade 11 students here. This is another example of our school's kind of culture and ethos in allowing in investing in new technologies and allowing students to run and teachers, I guess, to run with them. So the guy with the green t-shirt on there is a child of one of our faculty members, and the initial investment that his family made into 3D printing has then been brought into school. And you can see me in the bottom corner there, circling around, thinking about how can we integrate the two innovative technologies together. And we've done so. And so other students in lower down grades now, grade 8, in fact, have been working on designing in VR and then 3D printing. So if we can do this in a high school, I'm certain that businesses with, I guess, much larger research and development budgets can do that too. But you can see, again, the collaborative nature of everything, and the exploratory nature and design thinking of everything that we've been trying to do. So this chap in the green t-shirt here, I'm very proud of him. And in fact, I think he probably knows more about 3D printing than most people even in the 3D printing industry. And so he is creating a skill set for himself and a competency that, I guess, when he leaves school, is probably going to be worth more than the certificate that he leaves with, in all honesty. And I imagine he's going to probably walk into a job in industry with that knowledge base that he's got and the skills that he's got. So other ways in which we've integrated emerging technologies and kind of smushed them together and looking at kind of pushing the boundaries of what schools been doing, schools can do around the world. So here you can see a 3D scanner that we very luckily we have one in our design tech department, and I've been trying to integrate the various different technologies together. So the 3D scanner you can see in the video down here on the right hand side. This is the unboxing day from when it arrived, probably about 7 or 8 months ago. And this is trying to set it up, and again it was a little bit trial and error. Here we can see some error because the scanner actually should be kind of like parallel to or straight over the top of the board, parallel to the desk. And so it took us a little while to get it going, and you can see here we've scanned in this was a tape measure because it was within the DT department that we scanned it. So we've scanned in many other things since then. And in fact, can you see there's a picture of a chair? So there was a teacher that came to the DT department with a problem. So the problem was the younger students would sit on the chairs and they would pull the lever and they would shoot up. Obviously the chair needs a certain amount of weight for it to be able to go back down. So the chair would shoot up once the child pulls the lever, and the teacher would have to go around and the teacher's assistant would have to go around and put the chair back down for the students so that they can, sit at the appropriate level, or some of them even just get off it. So the teacher came to the DT department with this issue of the chairs, and what we did was scanned in the bottom of the chair, then essentially used the dimensions of this scanned chair that we had. We built a bespoke 3D printed handle, essentially like a trap, right, or a lock, so that the chair wouldn't move up and down. As far as I know, you can buy versions of these online from companies, but none of them are bespoke in the way that they would fit every chair, because obviously if you buy, depends which chair design you buy, right? You'd have to create a brand new thing to fit on the bottom of it. So that's, I guess, one example from school. But maybe you can think of an example where there's some product or some issue or some problem, I guess, within your own work environment that a scanning and 3D printing and design and maybe in VR even design can solve that issue. But I guess the main thing is just exploring. So thankfully we have a culture at the school where we make investments and allow teachers and students to explore and push, I guess, the boundaries. And students, leaving our school will have skills that probably, people, in fact, certainly students at university and even in postgraduate degrees could only dream of. Here we have another example. So this is, again, design. And this is a free app called Soundstage. And you can see on the right-hand side, this is a student of ours who's into digital music creation. And the bottom right-hand corner is our head of music exploring this app called Soundstage. On the left-hand side, you see a chap called Luis Resta, who's our graduation speaker last year. And he came to speak at graduation, spent some time in our school actually doing music workshops. And towards the end of his time at the school, I've been pestering him a little bit to come and try Soundstage VR, and I managed to grab him on the final day before he flew out. So this is him playing with Soundstage VR, which again is free. Actually, the chap who created it, and it's created in something called Unity. The guy who created it was just very young, right? 18-year-old guy, 19-year-old guy. And Google saw this, and they essentially brought him on board to come and work with them. So it hasn't been updated for a year or so, but there will be essentially like a Google sanctioned version of this coming out very soon. So I'll show you what it does, and I'll let Luis, because I interviewed him after he used this. I'll show you what he made. I'll also let him speak about how he thinks this new technology, emerging technology, could change music. So, what your thoughts? Initial thoughts? You've been in Soundstage for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. What do you think?
Totally unbelievable. It took me a moment to get the feel of the area, but you get lost. I could literally be there all day, bringing in all these different components, and the thing that really turned me on when I hit it was the sampler, to be able to pull multiple samplers and just have them sitting around you in reverse, in loop, detuning them. Then I discovered the reverb, and reverb I love because it gives the distance and all the cotton to it and the otherworldliness. And then basic beat, and you can get as complex as you want. It's almost, I'm a little flipped out. You sit flipped up. This is crazy, totally crazy.
So I went on to ask him a few more questions, but for the sake of time, you can always go and find that video. It's on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So how do we integrate all of these different technologies together? And how would you, as a business, integrate all of these different technologies together to provide a solution to a problem that you can think of if you're a business? In the business of education, the problem that was brought to us by my colleague Darren Treble, who's the head of visual arts, was they have every year they have an international sound sculpture project. So the idea is that the grade 10 students make a sculpture in their art classes, and then they choose a sound that will accompany that sculpture. And the sound in the past, they make a physical sculpture. The sound itself they make within GarageBand, and then when they play put the two things together, it's a little bit kind of abstract. So they have the sculpture, the sound. They haven't figured a way to actually put the sound reliably, comfortably within the sculpture. Other than if you have 10 sculptures, you'd have to have 10 audio players. And the way that you would embed it is clumsy. So Darren came to me, knew that I'd been working with some students in Unity. He has been working as I guess one of the other people in the school who's really taken on virtual reality. He has had students working in that, so he knows, and he's been playing with Unity a little bit as well. So he knows what is possible. He had an idea of what could be possible. So he came to us and said, could we take the physical sculptures that the students have made and are making right now? Actually, they've not finished them yet. But could we take the physical sculptures and can we embed it in a virtual environment? And then could we have, within this virtual environment, could we have sounds that will either grow or get quieter with distance to the sculptures? So I said to him, well, maybe. And we set up work about just before Christmas. Actually, we started to work on this. So within about a month, the students we built this environment, very very basic, as you can see from the screenshot there. So we built the environment. We put an object within it, which was this grey block, and we also worked on the locomotion, so how to move around. And this is on a Tuesday afternoon for about an hour. So we've had maybe 5 or 6 different meetings. And the students were kind of starting from scratch. They'd not really used Unity that much before. And what they had used, they'd not used in VR. So through I guess, trial and error and working together. And again, this is students who are, the elder student is in grade 11. And the youngest student is in grade 8. So we'll say about 13, 14 years old. So working together, this is what they've made.
So, we're working on creating a 3D environment to show off the sculptures that the art students have made. What you see around me right now is just a pre-made background that we're using to test with. We've created this red platform here, and as you can see, if I click the trackpad on the controller, I can select a location, and that moves the box that I can walk around in to a different location. So since we're going to have a lot of sculptures to put in the environment, we're going to need a lot of space, so we'll use this to move around. And just as a demonstration, we have this 3D model of a tape measure in here, which was created using the 3D scanner that we're going to use for the actual sculptures, and we've imported it into here. This sculpture doesn't have any color. Obviously, the actual sculptures will, but yeah, as you can see, this works. I can look at this and walk around it and poke my head in it, and the sound isn't working right now, but we've already tested it in previous times that we can, in fact, attach a sound to this object, which will get louder when we've teleported closer to it and be quieter when we're farther away.
So, I guess in conclusion for this section, the idea that at a high school level we could be combining these innovative and new technologies of 3D printing, of virtual reality, design in virtual reality, and also 3D scanning. As far as I'm aware, I think we're the only school in the world that is really combining all of these three emerging technologies. I told you about my friend and also a fellow VR enthusiast in Dubai, Steve Bambury, who is doing a lot of work in virtual reality in education. And I would say that his school and our school are the leaders in that. But as far as I'm aware, and I know that his school isn't really pursuing the integration of the different technologies together. And it's hard, right, to be able to do that. You need, I guess, you for example, as people who own businesses, people who can do that are not falling off trees. They're not going to fall out of the sky. But I guess part of it is a culture. If I'd have gone to the head of our school initially and said about getting the funding to buy the first VR headset, if I hadn't been allowed to go on that path and on that journey, I don't know whether the school would be doing the things that we're doing right now. And I don't know whether the students would be doing this. More importantly, I don't know whether the students, in fact, I'm certain the students wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing right now. So that's the same for you and your employees, right? Every student, I always say when people say, our school, we should slow down. I said to them, well, our students are on the clock. They have got 2 years, 3 years left at the school. If we slow down, what about them? They don't get to experience that thing. Maybe it'll be 4 or 5 years before they get to experience that thing. Maybe they'll never get to experience that thing until it's too late, and they become consumers of that thing as opposed to producers of that emerging technology. And I guess the same would be true for your employees, except your employees can leave at any time. Like our students have to stay with us until they graduate. If you don't take the leap with your employees, they can vote with their feet and you can go somewhere else. And in fact, I imagine there'll be people who will recruit them, right, if they are feeling dissatisfied or not pushed. So I want to leave you the last thing today. So I guess in recap, first thing is training and collaboration across vast distances, right? VR will allow us to do that. The second thing that we talked about was the experiences for customers. Building virtual experiences, which you can see from the third thing, which is integrating and synthesizing these emerging technologies together, and being bold and brave and allowing people to kind of express themselves and go and find out and build new skills. And so I think one of the really super example of all of these things together is from the summer when I was speaking at Google offices are in London. On one of the days off, I was walking around London and I went to the Natural History Museum. And as I was walking back from the Natural History Museum, I saw the Imperial College London, which is right nearby, had essentially like a science fair, and it was for their postgraduate students. And this thing, one of many things, actually caught my eye. And this guy called Dougie Mann, who's a postgrad student. I'll let him explain what he'd made. I see this as an example of, I guess, all three things coming together, being bold, allowing, in this case, postgrad students to go and do something, go and make something. The solving a problem, right, for a consumer or a customer, and then third, integrating various technologies together. So let's hear. A master's student at Imperial College, and this is his creation. So he's going to tell you a little bit about it.
Sure. So this is a keyboard. Rather than having 50 buttons, it has just 5 buttons. So you have 4 down the left and 1 at the top right. And then rather than pressing each button, you press chords of the buttons, kind of like on a guitar or a piano. So for an H, it would be just the top 3 together. A G would be this one, for example. You can see it prints on the screen.
So tell me a little bit about the design process, because we got some kind of prototypes, I'm guessing, in here.
So I had a friend, an amputee friend who I was working with, and I basically just observed him, watched him. We identified some problems he had in his life, and one of them was his inefficiency in using a computer. And so I kind of just thought about how I could solve it, how I could simplify his whole interaction. And that idea of simplifying was very obvious, like make a keyboard just 5 buttons, and that was how it started to develop. And I was just very new for me. I don't do electronics, I don't do coding or anything like that, so I started it extremely simple. It was literally just a button sketch with an Arduino. I made just a 5-button keyboard, and I started to think about the logic of how it would work, and that's actually very closely related to how Arduino works. It's a very like, obvious route.
This for me is a really good example of computational thinking, and you said have you ever seen an Arduino at school, at high school?
Never did it. I found out what it was quite recently. Embarrassing to say.
Well, it's not. That's more of a reflection of education, I think, than a reflection on you. But you figured it out, and you have made something that probably would have a fantastic application in the real world. Yeah. Right?
And the main thing this course stresses is prototyping. So I did obviously years of an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. Still never knew what a Raspberry Pi was, an Arduino was, anything. It was just maths. I was just learning about like flow and like forces and all that. Came here, and that was when they were like, just do it, just make it, see if it works. Start with cardboard, start with blue foam. If that works, add a few electronics in there. If that works, try 3D printing it. And everything was just trial and error, essentially. They didn't teach you how to do it. You kind of had to just find out, talk to friends, talk to tutors, see if you can figure it out. But the main thing as well was having like 50 designers and engineers all in one pot, one melting pot, and that's where you could. There's like an expert in coding, there's an expert in 3D printing, and you could speak to them and say, hey, can you just help me code this?
Bring in different disciplines together.
Exactly, yeah. And when you do that, like it brings everyone up, right? It doesn't bring those people down, it just...
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game, right? A rising tide lifts all ships.
Exactly, yeah.
So I feel some kinship with Dougie. I think we're kind of doing the same thing. Thankfully, it's early in his life and in his career where he's getting this idea that you can bring together these emerging technologies and work and collaborate with like-minded people to solve problems that you see in the world. Thankfully, I work at an organization that allows us to do that and will promote that and actively push that idea and that philosophy. They also put their money where their mouth is in allowing people to do, like he said, actually, Dougie, trial and error. thankfully, most of the things that we've invested in have panned out because we've been smart in doing that. But I guess part of the panning out is having the culture and having the people, I guess, and building time for people to do stuff like that. And like I said, everybody's on the clock. Business is more so than education, I guess, because there's always somebody else. There's always another company that's going to come out and do something better than you're doing if you sit still. So I guess in recap again. So number one, training, collaboration, and bridging huge distances with a fraction of the cost. Two, experiences for customers, and I guess customers will get used to this and will become more demanding of experiences, much in the same way that people would much rather shop from home nowadays than go out. And think about the high street 20, 30 years ago, it would have been unthinkable that many of those high streets, which were so important at the time, would now be really, really suffering. And the idea of even like Amazon itself, right, 20 years ago probably would have been unthinkable. Number three, so design and collaborating to integrate emerging technologies, and VR being one of those technologies, but not the only one, right? Being able to using 3D scanning, using 3D printing, using Unity, and building capacity, building competency, I guess, within your staff in these technologies, which are very, very new, and probably many companies haven't really explored yet, and probably maybe don't even have people who could explore that. So building some capacity as well as competency in that field. So I guess that's it. I guess we're done. And super importantly, you can ask me anything. So in the comment section below, feel free to write some questions in, and we can perhaps as a group of people watching this, we can collaborate on solving problems and making our students and also your employees producers of information and content and knowledge rather than perhaps just consumers. So thank you.